Hello, everyone. My name is Boris Grinberg. I am with Accolend. Just one second. So thank you very much for, good afternoon, I guess, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. So you have a choice of tuning in to other sessions. So I very much appreciate that you joining me today. So before we start the session, just a little bit about myself. I started my career many years, like 20 plus years ago at a mortgage company in Los Angeles. I worked for a large global investment bank and a hedge fund in New York and in London in various risk-taking roles. I started Accolend 4 years ago, a traditional private lender. We offer fix and flip loans, rental loans, and we did 15 joint venture deals in the last 2 years. We differentiate ourselves with our no point program. So at the end of our presentation, we'll have a Q&A session and we can talk more about our programs. And after Q&A, I'll be available for, I think, another 20, 30 minutes to answer all the questions. And in case no one asks questions or in case, yes, you can always call Accolend, you can call us and we can obviously answer all the questions that we have. So with that, let's proceed with our presentation. So for the purpose of this presentation, I would assume that you have done at least one deal. Investing in real estate is hard, and every experienced person will tell you that. What you see on the Discovery Channel is not necessarily what happens in real life. And we have done 15 deals so far with joint ventures program, and I personally did another 7 deals with my wife. And there is always something new for us. There is always something that throws a monkey wrench into our plans. So no matter how much preparation you do or learn, nothing can substitute for experience. So you have never done a deal before, I would be very careful with 100% financing. You have done your homework. If you have not done that, and if you are not clear enough about numbers, I don't think it makes sense to proceed. As a matter of fact, this session may not be clear for you. So please take your time, learn Excel, learn and understand numbers, or your real estate career would be short-lived. You are not doing this because you are bored during COVID, and we all, to a certain degree, are. You're really doing it because it is your passion. You want to make money. You want to make the difference. And the last one is, if you cannot afford to lose money in real estate, please stay away from high leverage investments, or actually from investment in general. This business is great. It offers a lot of financial upside, but you can lose money. And in our experience, in one of our joint ventures, like we've done 15, we've made money in many deals, but our worst investment, we've actually lost more than $100,000 on one deal. So if you cannot afford losing money, then please do not, but be careful. So let's look at some examples. And let's use a deal and run different scenarios. And the deal would be quite generic. So we buy a property for $200,000. We invest in renovations around $75,000, and our ARV is at $380,000. So these numbers are generic, and this is what we are seeing from our borrowers today. So we're going to run 2 different scenarios. Scenario num, the financing scenarios. Financing scenario 1 would be 20% down payment for purchase and 20% down payment for renovation. So 80% of the purchase price and 80% of the rehab amount. So if you do this deal, we've calculated that the soft cost will be around $34,000 for the total cost around $90,000. And this would be something like that. Our company will finance around 10% rate and no points. And the soft costs are including financing fee, closing costs, title work, and so on. So again, roughly $89,000 for scenario 1. Scenario number 2 would be for 100% financing. And in this case, obviously, you don't need any money for down payment. You really need money for soft cost. And the difference between scenarios one and scenario two, and the reason for higher soft cost for 100% financing is because you have points and the interest is, you accrue interest and a higher amount. So that's the difference between two, like this is the difference. So if investor Joe Smith, for example, has $90,000, he can do one deal with 80% financing, or he can invest in two deals with 100% leverage. So this would be two scenarios that we'll be running. So scenario number one, we would assume that it is a base case. And by base case, this is what is expected. We bought the property for 200,000, 75,000 construction, and we sold it as expected at $380,000. Rehab budget was within our expectations. Our timeline was 8 months, and we've achieved it, accomplished it. So base case is what is expected. And we're going to look at two scenarios. Scenario one would be upside scenario. Scenario two would be downside scenario. Upside scenario, we sell it for, this is a scenario where all the stars perfectly align. You sell it for 10% higher than your base case, and your HAB budget is down by $10,000, roughly 15%, and the timeline has been shortened from 8 months to 6 months. So it's a great scenario. We've done 15 deals, joint venture deals. We've done 7 deals. I did 7 deals personally with my wife. I don't think we've actually ever hit that upside scenario. But let's assume this for argument, for purpose of our conversation, we're going to use it as upside scenario. And the downside scenario is you sell it for 90% of the expected case. Your rehab cost is up from 75 to 95%. Your timeline is extended by 12 months. Actually, in our experience, we've had a couple of cases like that, because usually it happened, in our case, it happened is because our rehab budget was so much higher, and it would take us so much more money to invest to get to base case, that we simply said, we're just going to do whatever it takes to put the property as fast in the market as possible. So this was a downside scenario. So we're going to run analytics for all 3 cases, and this is what we're getting. So this would be upside scenario, downside with 80% and 100% financing. So in our base case, with 80% loan to 80% financing, we've got 58% return on our capital over 90,000, or roughly $50,000 profit. And with a higher leverage, because it was 2 deals, our total profit was more like $85,000. Great numbers, good deals. Upside scenario, we've got 120% over our return on our equity, and with a high leverage, it was $260,000. Obviously, leverage is fantastic. When deal make money, you obviously return, you get a lot more money when deals make money. And the downside scenario, with 80% loan to value, you're going to lose 22% of your investment, and with a high leverage, you're going to lose 75. So if you invested $90,000, if you had 90% investment with a higher leverage, with 100% financing in a downside scenario, you're going to lose 70,000+ out of your $90,000 investment. So leverage is absolutely fantastic when deals make money, but it is just absolutely painful when deals lose money. So pros and cons, when do we want to use leverage, or when it makes sense to use leverage, is when people have limited access to capital. When another scenario, and this is where we see most of the desire for leverage, is when people have done a couple of deals with a smaller leverage, or they've done a couple of joint ventures, and when people want to scale your business and want to do multiple projects at the same time, that's where obviously you want to go for the leverage. And leverage provides you great return on your capital. The downside of leverage, you're borrowing a lot of money. And when you borrow a lot of money, any potential extension, any potential market disruption is incredibly painful. So you're borrowing a lot of money, you're borrowing the money at much higher rate. And in a downside scenario, you have very high losses in the downside. When does it make sense to consider high leverage? If you're an experienced investor and if you've done deals, you've done stuff, it definitely makes a lot of sense in some cases to employ leverage, but it is complicated. So it is complicated. So if you find an amazing deal, we have done right now in our pipeline, we have roughly 30 to 50 different deals. And out of those 30 to 50 deals, I would say we have at least 10 deals that qualify as amazing transactions. So even if today, in today's market, in today's conditions, investors still find great deals. So if you found a great deal, it's definitely worth considering high leverage. Another scenario is if there is some sort of arbitrage and an upside that is coming. For example, zoning board in certain municipality suddenly decided that they will allow conversion to 2 to 3 family without any approvals. Or another scenario that everyone considered is Amazon coming to town. Or someone bought, another example would be someone bought land next block to develop luxury properties. So the idea here is that because there is some sort of event or some sort of circumstances, everything will improve in value, and there is some sort of a significant upside that is coming. Or another scenario is that you just have a friend or relatives that just has a lot of money, and he is willing and he wants to get involved in real estate, and he doesn't care if he loses a little bit of money. Joint ventures. So what is the reason for joint ventures? This is typically when two or more parties come together with a complementary, with something that they all bring to the table. For example, it would be something that is complementary. And there could be many reasons for that. For example, it could be a passive investors, like for example, Accolend, an active manager without a capital. So that's a great scenario. We have money. We don't want to be involved in a day-to-day management. So we found that active investor that wants to manage all business. Another example would be an active investor that has capital, willing to find deals, but does not want to do any construction work, doesn't want to do anything with construction. So partnership with a manager like that and good contractor, we've seen this type of joint venture. Another one would be active investor that wants to manage the deals, has capital, but just does not have access to good inventory, good transactions. It's not easy to find good deals in this market. So if you have a real estate agent with access to good deals, that could potentially be a sensible joint venture partnership. When is it a good idea to do joint venture? Again, this is, as we discussed in the previous slide, is when people have complementary experiences, skill set, circumstances. If two people come together for joint venture and they have exactly the same skill set, it is unlikely to work well. It only if someone comes to the table and brings something that other party doesn't, only then it can potentially work. That's one. Another one is it's just another pair of eyes on the risk and reward. It is, as you know, it is complicated. This business is complicated, and sometimes people, and ourselves included, get emotional about certain transactions, certain properties. So if you have someone else who is working with you, helping with you, provides that skeptical approach, it is certainly helpful. When you do joint ventures, it's typically one party comes with money or comes with most money. So the concept of leverage does not really exist. So there is always someone who brings money to the table. So there is no leverage and there is no time pressure. And obviously, if we see adverse circumstances or adverse market conditions, it's like we've seen recently with COVID or if with any other market disruptions, having partners that you can work well together with is absolutely very beneficial. You can spread the risk, you can work together, and another party may have money, may have access to something that you don't have. So, two or three parties in adverse circumstances could be beneficial. The downside, partnerships can become contentious and complicated over time. It happens, joint ventures is almost like a marriage. Sometimes things work out, sometimes it doesn't. Also, partner circumstances and priorities may change. One of our out of 15 deals, we did four joint ventures with one party. There were two partners, developers. And the main partner that was responsible for the construction had a stroke. Because of that, nothing was getting done over the course of the following 3 months. And even when the person came back, he just couldn't handle it as well as we expected it or as well as he wanted to manage it. And his other partner wasn't able to do that. So what we did is we went back to that party and they said, okay, here's three choices for you. Choice number one, you can take all four properties. Choice number two, we take all four properties. Or in choice number three, you just take two properties that you like and give us two properties that you don't like. Unfortunately, in our circumstances, our developer partner simply turned around and said, here's the key, we're out of this. So we had to take over four properties and manage it ourselves. It was very unfortunate. We had to learn a lot. We're just simply not prepared to manage it, but we've managed it. So far, so good. So the reason for this example is that circumstances can change, like in this case, and you rely on other people, and things can change in their life. And the last bullet point is kind of the same. You simply rely on other people, and their motivations can change. For example, in some cases we have seen is at the beginning of the transactions is when deals were going well, our partners, joint venture partners, were motivated. But over time, when we've seen that some cases where the deals were not doing that well, and then when the profit margins were clearly not what was expected, so developers were less enthusiastic about doing deals simply because they knew they're not going to make money. So downside of the joint ventures is that it's almost like a marriage. You have quite a bit of downside because of that. So in terms of like looking at the matrix and looking how to go about it is really a lot more sort of a conceptually. When does that make sense to proceed with the joint ventures with versus 100% financing? If you 100% financing offers you absolutely amazing profit margins. So when you have a great deals, great upside, you might want to finance it 100%. If it's just a sensible profit margin, you can consider joint ventures. If you have great experience, you've done a lot of deals, you may consider 100% financing. But joint venture, and if you have limited experience, 100% financing may not be available for you. Or if you have limited experience, you may not want to consider joint venture, not consider 100% financing until you build that experience. When you do joint ventures, someone always finances your interest, all the fees. So it is more forgiving than 100% financing. If the next point would be market conditions. So if you feel great about market, if you think there is a potentially great appreciation, rising tide helps all boats, then you can potentially consider going for 100% financing. If you're a bit cautious on real estate, you're not sure, you want to be a bit more cautious how you proceed, then it probably worth considering joint ventures. When it comes to developer risk, with 100% financing, worst case scenario, you can simply walk away from the deal and just surrender the key. If you are in joint ventures, you can still walk away, but it's a lot more complicated because there you're usually involved in some sort of a relationship with people. And the last point, which is probably the most important of all, is if you want to really scale up your business, joint ventures can only take you that far, simply because in most cases you split your profit 40, and you're getting anywhere between 40 to 50% of profits. So if you want to make certain amount of money per year, you need to do twice as many deals. So if you want to scale it, if you want to scale your business, you don't necessarily have your money. So joint ventures is definitely the way to grow your business. But to truly grow your business at a much higher rate, 100% financing is the way to go. Building real estate portfolio. And we've been in, myself as a principal and myself as a Accolend and myself as an investor, building real estate portfolio takes time. So it is marathon, it is not a sprint. So I think from our experience as investor is you want to consider both. You want to consider, in some cases, you want to consider joint ventures. In some cases, you want to consider your 100% financing. It's definitely worth diversifying the portfolio and strategies across all the sectors. And we work, our joint venture partners do explore multiple funding sources. We just completed another deal with our investor. He's done 2 joint ventures deals with us, and he's done 10 transactions himself in the last couple of years. So smart and sophisticated investors employ all high leverage, low deal ventures in cash deals. So it's only on the discovery channels that you can see make quick profit guarantee gurus. And these gurus usually sell you all type of engagements. They really make money mostly on this engagement as opposed to real estate deals. And as I said earlier, there are plenty of opportunities to make money on real estate. And we see it. We see it every day from our borrowers. And as I said, out of 30 to 50 deals we have in the pipeline, at least 10 deals we think are amazing. And the 5 deals we like a real steal. Sometimes we look at that, even say it's a crime. How can you get this type of upside in this market conditions? So there is great upside in the real estate. The market is a little bit complicated right now, and there is a bit of uncertainty with the COVID scenario. But everyone who invested in real estate in the last decade, probably did quite well. So that's what we have. That's kind of what we have. We also, in terms of we put together this presentation. We have this marketing materials, and these are 12, like a little booklet that we put together. This is 12 deals we did in the 12 months, and we can absolutely share it with you. In terms of our transactions, is our experience. We've done 6 deals we purchased via sheriff sale. We've done 1 deal we purchased in the auction, and 5 deals were done in the private sales. I would say out of 15 deals we've done, we've probably made good money in 2-3 deals. We've lost a little bit of money on a couple of deals, and the 1 deal we actually lost quite a lot of money, more than $150,000. Kind of everything went against us, but in general, it's been a very positive experience for us. We have, for the time being, our joint venture program is on hold as we sort of are restarting our joint venture program in the post-COVID environment, but it's been a very pleasant experience, and we're absolutely happy to consider deals going forward with investors, and we're happy to share our experience. That's kind of what we have to say, and I am gonna click on stop sharing, and I think we will open up to the Q&A session. My understanding that if you have questions, you need to type these questions in the private chat. So if you have questions, please type it there. I'll answer. And if you don't, I'm happy to have a follow-up conversation. Okay, so while you guys are thinking, maybe a little couple of words about our business. Accolend, as I said, is a traditional hard money lender. So traditional private lender. So we offer fix and flip loans. We offer a couple of programs. Our lower leverage, it's 75 to 80% of the purchase price and 75 to 80% of the construction budget. And the rate on 9.5 to 10%, no points. For high leverage, we do somewhere around 10%, which is 85% of the purchase price, 100% of construction at around 9.5 to 10% plus 2 points. And we also offer rental loans, and rental loans start from 6%, rates and up. And it depends on leverage. It depends on your FICO score. So if you have any questions, our website is www.accolend.com. Okay, I guess I'll wait for another minute. And if not, I'm happy to connect with all of you after this event. Thank you for joining us.